together now.
You're insane.
Come on. Okay, get in, take a breath, and then when the door closes, hit a button.
I don't understand this.
You don't have to understand, you just have to have faith.
Faith in what?
Destiny.
Do you believe in destiny, or do you think we create our own fate? This story tells of a couple who goes searching for each other years after their first serendipitous encounter. Serendipity is a 2001 American romantic comedy film starring John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale. While Christmas shopping in Bloomingdale's in New York City, Jonathan meets Sarah when both try to buy the same pair of gloves. Despite both being in relationships, a mutual attraction led them to having dessert at a restaurant called Serendipity, where Sarah explains that she lets fate's little signals determine many of her life decisions.
Where do you find this place?
I first came in because of the name. Serendipity. It's one of my favorite words.
It is? Why?
It's just such a nice sound for what it means, a fortunate accident. Except I don't really believe in accidents. I think fate's behind everything.
No, you do.
Yeah,
Fate's behind everything.
I think so.
Everything's predestined. We don't have any choice at all.
No, I think we make our own decisions. I just think that fate sends us little signs, and it's how we read the signs that determines whether we're happy or not.
Little signals.
Yeah.
After separating, they meet again when each return to the restaurant to retrieve something they forgot. They decide to hang out and go ice skating at Central Park, where they bond even more. Afterwards, Jonathan convinces Sarah to give him her number. But when the wind blows it out of his grasp, Sarah thinks it is fate telling them to back off. Jonathan disagrees, and Sarah decides to let fate reunite them. She has Jonathan write his number on a $5 bill, which she uses to buy bread mints, and promises to sell her copy of Love in the Time of Cholera, in which she will write her name and number, and then performs one last experiment.
Right. If we both randomly pick the same floor, we're meant to be together now.
You're insane.
Come on. Okay, get in, take a breath, and then when the door closes, hit a button.
I don't understand this.
You don't have to understand, you just have to have faith.
Faith in what?
Destiny. Hey, it's Sarah. My name's Sarah.
After the door closes, they each pick the same floor. But Jonathan is delayed when a child on his elevator presses random buttons. Sarah believes the experiment failed. Years later, Jonathan is an ESPN producer engaged to Hallie, and Sarah is a therapist living in San Francisco engaged to a musician, Lars. A few days before the wedding, Jonathan begins seeing small signs that reminds him of Sarah, so he consults his best friend Dean.
I'm telling you, the universe keeps revealing her to me. It's screwing with my head.
You're getting married in 3 days.
That's my point.
It's entirely duplicitous. Think about it. Why would you risk your relationship with Hallie just to search for some type dream?
Just hear me out, man.
Still not over the potential destiny he could have with Sarah, together with Dean, they search all the vintage bookstores for the one special book. They find nothing. But later, Jonathan accidentally finds her glove with a receipt from all those years ago and goes on the hunt with Dean again. Meanwhile, Sarah, stressed by the wedding planning and Lars' focus on an upcoming world tour, travels to New York with her best friend Eve to find Jonathan and explains why.
I've just spent the entire flight staring into the sky thinking, not about my fiancé, but about this mystery guy I met 1.5 million hours ago. A guy I don't even remember except for this vague picture I have inside my head. It was just a few seconds. A fragment, really. And it was like, in that moment, the whole universe existed just to bring us together.
After nearly crossing paths with Jonathan throughout the day, Eve and Sarah have dessert at Serendipity, where Eve convinces Sarah to give up. But Eve's change contains the $5 bill with Jonathan's number. Meanwhile, Jonathan and Dean, following clues, end up at a roommate finder service next to Serendipity that Sarah once used. It's now a bridal shop. Jonathan sees it as a sign that he should marry Hallie. At the Waldorf's Austria, Eve and Sarah encounter Hallie headed to the wedding rehearsal. Hallie invites Eve to join her since they were friends in college, while Sarah returned to the room. Outside their room, she finds an apologetic Lars. At the rehearsal, Jonathan's distracted demeanor frustrates Hallie.
I've dreamed about this my entire life, and I've imagined the dress and the flowers and, I mean, even the music the band was gonna play, and everything is exactly the way I want it, except for my fiancé, who's just decided to float off to Never Never Land.
Look, maybe I've been a little bit out of it the past week, but it's just normal, guy stuff. It's a little cold feet. Doesn't mean I don't love you.
Call me crazy, but I'd like my fiancé's feet to be warm, especially when we're hours from going down the aisle.
She pleads with him to focus on the wedding, and he apologizes. Soon after, Hallie gives him a Love in the Time of Cholera as a wedding gift. He opens it up and finds Sarah's name and number in it. Jonathan and Dean uses Sarah's phone number to get her address and flies to San Francisco. Once there, they see Sarah's sister and her boyfriend making love and assume it is Sarah in a happy relationship. Dean helps Jonathan realize that he doesn't want to marry Hallie, while Sarah decides to end her engagement to Lars. The next day, while on an airplane back to San Francisco, Sarah sees the $5 bill with Jonathan's number on it.
Sorry, excuse me.
That's this gentleman's change.
Jonathan.
Excuse me,
Jonathan. Sorry, you know what? I'm gonna thank you. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm sorry. Sir.
She calls and gets Jonathan's address. When she gets there, she's told by the building superintendent of his wedding at the Waldorf. Sarah hurries there and is relieved to find the ceremony has been cancelled.
What?
Yeah, called the whole thing off this morning.
He called it off? That's terrible.
Meanwhile, Dean reassures Jonathan that he did the right thing and vows to be more spontaneous in his own marriage, which has been on the rocks. Jonathan wanders to the same ice skating rink where he spent parts of his evening with Sarah all those years earlier, and finds a leather jacket on a bench. As it begins to snow, he lies on his back in the middle of the rink with the jacket as a pillow next to one of the pairs of gloves. When the matching glove lands on his chest, he sits up and finds Sarah watching him, having come to claim her jacket. They finally found each other and slowly make their way to one another.
I'm John.
I'm Sarah.
It's been a long time that I'm waiting. It's been a long time that I'm blown. It's been a long time that I've wandered, but through the people I have known. Oh, if you would and you could.
They introduce themselves and finally share a kiss. Each year to celebrate their anniversary, they return to Bloomingdale's in front of the display of gloves where they first met.
I think this quote by Robert Briall summarizes my take on destiny. Sometimes in life, you have an appointment with destiny, and sometimes you just have to get destiny to squeeze you in. Sure, some things might be predestined, but I believe it takes us moving towards it to make it happen. Like Jonathan and Sarah intentionally looking for each other. What do you think? Let us know in the comment section. 接下来我们揭晓今天的学习内容。To search for some pipe dream. A pipe dream is an unrealistic and unattainable goal, an impossible hope. The origin of this phrase, pipe dream, is an allusion to the dreams experienced by smokers of opium pipes. So Dean was telling Jonathan to search and find Sarah after all these years is a pipe dream. Except it wasn't. Float off to Never Never Land. Never Never Land is an imaginary place where everything is pleasant or perfect in a way that is impossible to achieve in real life. The phrase Never Never Land is linked to Peter Pan's Neverland, where he and the Lost Boys live. Call me crazy. When someone starts a sentence with call me crazy but ... that means they know what they're about to say might sound ridiculous, but it makes sense to them. For example, someone might say, call me crazy, but I think the earth is flat. And that's it for this episode of Cinephile. You can find more on the FUNDAY website. Let's make every day a fun day.
was an accident. Write that down again, please.
I can't. That was a sign. Fate's telling us to back off.
If fate didn't want us to be together, then why did we meet tonight, huh? Gotcha.
哦，就跳美。
Hey, what do you need?
你下面你，威士忌。
Single?
下面是I'm married, you know?
Okay. On the rocks?
下面 rocks，九桃。我跟你讲 I'm married，你讲九桃。
你跟他一样遇到专业术语不知道该怎么办吗？现在加入 FUNDAY，立刻享有优惠，赶快一起来 FUNDAY 学英文吧！